Welcome to One on One. And today's conversation, we have a medical doctor, founder, Smile With Me Foundation, a health education and health aid centered NGO in Africa. She is currently championing the Cheat on Cervical Cancer project, and she is a public health advocate. She's a two-time award-winning social media health influencer and a one-time Her Network Woman of the Year nominee for Healthcare Woman of the Year 2018. She is Dr. Chioma Nwakanma. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, you championed this project, Cheat on Cervical Cancer. What is it all about, and why did you decide to start this project?
Thank you very much. So the Cheat on Cervical Cancer campaign started about 2 years ago, 2017 to be precise. And it started because there was very little awareness about a disease that was ravaging the lives of women in Africa, especially Nigeria. So statistically speaking, cervical cancer is the second most common cancer affecting women worldwide. And in Africa, where health education is very reduced, awareness reduced, is currently about to beat breast cancer to be top. So it's something I felt was underrated and under talked about. So I decided to do it, and because also I had some personal encounters with it. I had friends, 2 friends who lost their mothers to it, and as a medical doctor, I had to be in the gynecology ward, and I saw people die. I noticed that the rate was actually high and nobody was talking about it. People were dying daily from it. So I decided to talk about it.
Now, this is the big question. What is cervical cancer? What is the cause? What are the signs? What are the symptoms?
Cervical cancer is basically, I'm going to talk in basic terms so I don't sound all doctorish. So cervical cancer is cancer affecting the neck of the womb. Medically speaking, it's called the cervix. So, but it's the neck of the womb. I describe it to women and people as that part of the woman's body. When a woman is about to put to bed and then they are checking to know if she's dilated, they say she's 2 cm, 4 cm, and all. That's where you check. So it's the cancer affecting that area. So this means it affects just women. And cancers have no major cause. You can't actually say this is what caused this cancer or this is what caused this cancer. But cancers are just normal cells. Cancer cells are normal cells that just decided to go crazy or mad, and they stopped. There's something we call the contact inhibition of growth, meaning every normal cell has a point where they get to and then they stop growing. But cancer cells get to that point and they keep growing. So cervical cancer has risk factors, things that could lead to it, that could cause it. The major culprit when it comes to cervical cancer is a virus we call the HPV, the human papilloma virus. Now, the human papilloma virus has several strains. It has a lot of strains. You have the 16, 18, different numberings. But when we talk about cervical cancer, we're interested in 2 strains. So you have the strain 16 and the strain 18. These 2 strains are implicated in cervical cancer. So like my lecturer would say back in medical school, he would say it's very okay to call cervical cancer a sexually transmitted disease. Yes, because basically that's what it is. Whenever you hear someone has cervical cancer, 95% of the time, HPV is implicated. So HPV is not the only cause or not the only risk factor, but it's the major risk factor that leads to cervical cancer. So we have the HPV. Other risk factors will include multiple sexual partners, which is obvious. When we talk about multiple sexual partners, I like to clarify. People think having multiple sexual partners is, having multiple sexual partners. But I mean, if you have one sexual partner who has multiple sexual partners, you have multiple sexual partners. So in the words of Reggae and Blue Guy, he says, when your boo get a boo. That's basically it. That's what we mean. So having multiple sexual partners predisposes women to this. So if you have an infected partner with HPV, which means the men are the carriers, basically. They are the ones who pass this on to the women. Yes. So when the man is infected and passes it on to his wife or his partner, it keeps spreading. Yeah, especially if it's this strain. Now the HPV, as I said, has other strains. It could present as genital warts. You know, that's common. Most people have heard about genital warts. Now, the genital warts strain does not cause cervical cancer, but, you know, it's a cause for worry because it's unsightly. Now, another risk factor is smoking in women. Okay. Women who smoke are very, very predisposed because the epithelium, there's something we call an epithelium, between the cervix and the vagina is transitional, it's changing. So when women keep smoking, it goes there, it just causes a change in the epithelial tissue around that area. It causes dryness, you know, it just causes a lot of changes. This makes it very easy for the HPV to also be implanted, and this can also just cause, you know, as I said, cancer cells can just start off for no reason. It can just lead to cancer cells, you know, proliferating, growing there. Then the other risk factors, we have general risk factors like nutrition. Okay. Yeah. When it comes to diet and people who are predisposed to having a lot of fatty diets. Yes. When your diet is poor and it's not up to par, then that can also lead to cervical cancer.
Okay, so now I'm going to have to. So there's just so many risk factors.
Yeah, there are a lot of risk factors.
I'm beginning to wonder, how do I know? How can I tell? How is it? What are the signs to show? Okay.
Okay. Once you see the signs or once you see the symptoms, know that there is trouble in the land. That's the scary thing about cervical cancer. The HPV can be in the woman's body and stay up to 10 years before it becomes full-blown cervical cancer. And that's why HPV, we say cervical cancer is 100% preventable, yet it is killing women. That's one of the reasons why I started, because I can't understand why the only cancer in the world that can be prevented is still killing people. It's the only cancer that can be prevented. And another thing is that the signs and symptoms are very okay, they're very normal. Like they can be anything. You can't say, they're not specific to cervical cancer. Lower back pain, you can have lower back pain for any reason. You can't just have lower back pain and say, oh, I have, no. Then you have the vaginal bleeding. Women can bleed for several reasons. There's also the foul-smelling discharge with the bleeding, and that's when it has formed a focus of bacteria and all that, and then she's having discharges, weight loss, of course, when the cancer starts spreading, weight loss, loss of appetite. You see, these symptoms they can be anything. So that's why we are doing the campaign to let women know that they should get screened, they should get vaccinated. Those are the methods that you can use. Screening detects it very early. Another beautiful thing is that cervical cancer can be treated when found at the precancer stage at the different stages 1 to 3. 1, 2 can also be treated. 3, in an ideal environment, you know, our health sector in Nigeria is wonderful. So I will always say Nigeria is the worst place to come to be sick, talk more of cancer. So, but in an ideal environment, I think at least a good number of years can be added to the person's years. Okay. Yeah.
So how often should a woman screen just to be safe?
There are about 3 standard screening methods. You have the popular one, the pap smear. Now the pap smear is basically taking a sample or a smear from the cervix, then you check it under the screen for any changes that look cancerous. So if any cancer is found, then you can be able to stage it and say, okay, this woman is positive, negative, she's on this stage and all that. But then the HPV screening, we're looking for the virus itself. So when the woman is screened for HPV, we're trying to find out if this woman has HPV, and if she does, is it these strains 16 and 18? So when you find that this woman has the virus, unfortunately, the virus cannot actually be cured. It can be treated. Treatment and cure, they are two different things. So it can be treated, meaning the viral load can be reduced, but it's something is viral, so it reduces it. We say that viruses are self-limiting, just like cough, catarrh. Whether you do anything or not, whether you take drugs or not, believe it or yes, in 7 to 14 days it will clear. It's self-limiting. So the HPV 2 is self-limiting. So there is no cure, unfortunately, but there are some things coming up recently. I know we're moving towards a cure for it. So what we do for women who are positive, we just encourage you to come regularly for screening, because, as I said, the HPV 16/18 may or may not cause the cervical cancer. It may or may not. You might be lucky, but you just have to be coming. So screening every 3 to 5 years, and then if any woman is found positive and is treated, we encourage you to come yearly to check, so we make sure that there is no reoccurrence.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to One-on-One with Dr. Chioma Nwakanma. Yeah, so we're talking about cervical cancer. Now, a woman has been diagnosed and she's on treatment. What is the next step? What's happening? What's the lifespan? What do we expect?
What do we expect? Firstly, nobody likes hearing the word cancer. Cancer is like a death sentence. But what people don't know is that cancer can be well managed, and cancer cells, depending on when detected, can actually be removed totally, because it's the cells that we're talking about. Once you destroy the cancer cells, the person is free. You just monitor the person, and then you encourage the patient to adopt healthier lifestyles. So for cervical cancer, I mentioned there are about 4 stages. You have the precancerous stage. That's when you notice that there are some cancer-like cells around, not yet full-blown, but if left, can lead to cancer. So that's called the precancerous stage. Now, at this stage, the woman, if detected, she can be treated on the spot. The treatment lasts for a total of about 10 minutes. It's that quick. And it's a process called cryotherapy. So cryo is like freezing. So freezing therapy, basically. So what we do is that we locate or we localize the cells, and then we burn them off by freezing. Burn by freezing, because you're using that high temperature, or that very low temperature, to burn off the cancer cells. You have the chemotherapy, where we use drugs to burn off the cancer cells. We also have radiotherapy, where we use the lighting. Radiotherapy, it's like using the X-ray kind of lights or whatever. That's my most basic way of explaining it. So we are like you're passing them through rays to burn off those cancer cells. These are really, they're not pleasurable experiences, basically, because chemotherapy is effective, but because cancer has no cure, what chemotherapy does, or the mechanism of action, is to destroy every fast-growing cell. Now let's talk about every fast-growing cell, meaning your hair cells grow every second, your blood vessels, your blood cells. That's why you see them, they are anemic, they are pale, their hair. You see how someone has cancer, their hair is off. It's off when they start chemotherapy. Like their skin starts to lose color, because it's also killing the skin cells and all. So that's one thing. But the thing is, in an effective treatment plan, dieting and other supplementation is done to preserve their cells while they are going through this method. So a woman who is detected early, depending on the stage, has a high chance of surviving cervical cancer. And once you've successfully done that, you have no issues. You go home, and as I said, if she has the funds, she can go for a HPV screening, make sure there is no HPV and all. And then we encourage vaccination. I mentioned vaccination. It's one of the preventive methods. Yeah? Yeah, it's one of the preventive. If any woman is negative, she should get vaccinated. Normally, the CDC, WHO says the age for vaccination is between 9 years to 26. And the reason is because from 9 to 26, ideally, there's been no sexual debut, or if there has been, it's not as advanced or as exposed as beyond 26. So ideally, women who are virgins don't have cervical cancer. Unless you have a family history, which is another risk factor. If any lady has a family history of cervical cancer from your maternal side, your mom, your aunt, any woman in your family, not just cervical, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, any female-related cancer, then you are at risk of having it. And it's worse when you come in contact with HPV. Now in Africa, where vaccination is not taken so serious, and parents skip vaccinations, and most people don't even know there is anything like the HPV vaccine. Most people, it will baffle you that even some health personnel in Nigeria don't know about the HPV vaccine because it's not included in our NPI schedule, the National Program for Immunization. Okay. It's not there. And it is way, way expensive. Even the wealthy people call it expensive. So we need to get a vaccine that is more affordable or something that is subsidized. For me, preferably, we're advocating, my NGO, we're advocating, and we've been pushing for this to be included in the NPI schedule. It makes everything easier. So school children from 9 years, like in the UK and the US, school children from 9 to 18 years are vaccinated for free. So if you're vaccinated for life, you just go to bed. So you see, so that's why the cervical cancer incidence has really dropped outside, in other nations outside the country. But here, it's still #1. So vaccination is key. If you are above 26 and then you're checked and you're negative, just get vaccinated. Because waiting and hiding and saying, God forbid, and it's not my portion, I love to say that it's not my portion is the leading cause of death in Africa.
Now, looking at cervical cancer as #2, we have breast cancer, we have ovarian cancer, and women are dying from this over and over again. Just look at ovarian cancer, for example. Early detection, they say, is really the best bet for cancer. But it's been said, for ovarian cancer, really you can't really detect on time. So what's the need for such if at the end of the day, the outcome is once you have it, you have it. Some people might be like, why am I bothering myself?
Here's the thing for diseases that are not easily detected, like ovarian cancer. Nigeria doesn't have the culture of screening. We don't have the culture of health checks, regular health checks. Early this year, I did a health check. I did about 52 tests on myself. Okay. And then to encourage, I run a social media blog, and so to encourage my followers, I said, oh, these are the tests, and I put out pictures. I said, these are the tests I did. It encouraged a lot of people to go do it. Then there's some people who are like, 52 tests, you will find what you are looking for, you know. That's the average Nigerian, okay? You will find what you're looking for. Please, it's not my portion. I'm not going for anything. I'm well. Now, ovarian cancer can't easily be, it's inside. It's not something you can just know unless you go and then it's it, as you said. So, but from normal health checks, like the one I did, part of the health checks I did was the abdominal ultrasound. Now, what it does is that it checks your womb. It checks every organ, like every organ inside. So if you have anything, they tell you, hey, you have something like this. This could be this could predispose you to this, because in radiology there are some diseases that you can measure. You can be able to project and say if this is not taken care of at this stage, you can. Okay. Yeah. So ovarian cancer usually starts it's a tumor of the ovary. It could start with a cyst that decided to change. So if a woman has an ovarian cyst, remove it at that point. If your doctor says it's wise to remove it, because if you leave it, it could decide to change Cancer cells are mad cells. They are crazy. A young girl of 12, she had a fracture. And then a fracture, she didn't heal. She was concealing it as a 12-year-old. She didn't want her parents to flog her. So by the time they found out, they took her to the traditional medicine people. They were trying, if it was a fracture, but they were trying to set what I don't know. From there, before they knew it wasn't getting any better, they got to the hospital after 2 months, and it was full-blown cancer. It was not cancer in the beginning. Like, it has given you room for it. So I'm saying cancer cells can just, they're mad. So just go for your regular screenings. That's what I would advise women. Let's take up this culture of just staying on your own. Walk to the hospital. Say, I want a screening. I'm fine. I'm not sick. I want a screening. Nothing will spoil. Gone are the days where people hear I have cancer and you just want to collapse. Yeah. There are options for you. But if you have the money though, you get?
Of course. Okay, then if there are options and then there's the option of surgery, and let's assume it's gone advanced and you have to have a hysterectomy, for example, and all, for breast cancer, you have to. When women feel so, afraid, there's the fear, there's the stigma, there's all that happening. What would you say for people who just feel like, you know what, I'd rather live with this thing and have my whole body part intact than that's people's
yeah.
Have that. So
what
would you say about that?
What I would say is, I think people live for different things. My friend would always say, when there is life, there is hope. People live for different things. Like, if you have a reason to live and you're given an option to live, you go for it. I think it's a very simple thing, because some people don't have the option of hysterectomy. Some people don't have the option of a mastectomy, removing their breast. Some people are told, go home, prepare your home, tidy your home, you have 2 months to live. And then you have an option of hysterectomy staring you in the face. You go for it. You don't think about it. You go for it. Okay, we're in an environment where there are other options. If it's a young woman who has not had children, usually the fear is, oh, so I won't have my own children. There are options of adoption. There are other options. There is surrogate motherhood. There are different options. Okay, so I think when you're given a chance to live, unless you've lost hope and you no longer have the will to live, then you can relax. I can't force you to leave.
There's this ideology, and I've heard it time without number. Oh, take this food, take this. I've even heard of asparagus. It's a great cure for cancer. Please, can you just clarify and just clear everything out? Because it's going on and on and on. Oh, this fruit is good. This food is better for cancer. Is that true? Most
of the drugs that we have, actually, if you trace back, they are from leaves, they are from herbs, they are from, okay? Now, the thing is that they are more proportioned, they are passed through a quantified process, refined, they're a combination of things, okay? There's just a chemistry behind them. Now, so if you ask me if these things can cure cancer, I would say no. Can they help with the cancer therapy? Can they help destroy cancer cells? Yes. There are some foods that can help to, that we advise cancer patients to stick with. Okay, take more of this. Okay. It helps build you, and it helps, detoxify you.
So what kind of foods?
Foods. Okay, firstly, foods that are antioxidants, because they help with the whole cellular breakdown thing. They mop up free radicals that cause cellular breakdown and destruction and all and all. So antioxidants are good. Then we've heard about broccoli. Broccoli helps. The normal sour soup. Okay, there are a good number of them. Okay, I can't remember all of them, but there are actually foods. But I have a problem with people who say it cures. You don't you do your treatment and make sure you pass everything by your doctor, because there are times when you say don't take this in every process of your cancer therapy. There are some things we prohibit. We say no, don't take this for now, because there's some components that might work against or antagonize the drugs we are giving you. So don't try to be your own doctor.
So this is now to add to that question. Talking about traditional medicine, are you certifying it? Are you saying, okay, for preventive, maybe they could help? Because people say, oh, I'll just drink my agbo, it will just do fine.
Okay, now, traditional medicine for me is different from herbal medicine. I will explain. Although some people call their traditional medicine herbal medicine, like some people use the names interchangeably and they confuse, but talking in the normal sense, there's alternative medicine. And alternative medicine is practiced all over the world, not just Nigeria. But in our country, Nigeria, we have a problem with measurements. Like, we don't have regulations. We don't even have drug regulations for the normal drugs. So our issue is regulation. In MDCN, the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, which I'm a member, we also have a provision for alternative medicine. Okay. There are some alternative medicine doctors who are registered under MDCN. People don't know. Yes, that is because I think that was the step to try to, bring them together, to meet to a common ground. But then MDCN needs to regulate these things and say this is what the components are. This component shouldn't be here. This should be this. There should just be a regulation. Now, the traditional medicines that we see, I quarrel with a lot because there are no regulations and there's no measurement. And then you tell me that the same drug that will cure diarrhea is going to cure constipation. Sorry, there are two different sides of a pole. Constipation and diarrhea, the same drug. So is it going to enter my stomach and then say, oh, I think today, it's diarrhea. Oh, let's just cure for diarrhea. Or they don't work like that. You should be able to say this is the mechanism of action of this drug. Any drug that doesn't have a mechanism of action is a poison. So I don't advise people to go for traditional medicines. Whatever you must do, go through your doctor. Your doctor should be the one to say, okay, this should be taken for this.
Thank you very much. It was really an enlightening conversation. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
And that's it on One-on-One. For more, follow Plus TV Africa on all our social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Do have a great day. Thanks for watching.